Hello everybody, and we are back with episode 5, I believe, of Robot Madness. The second to last episode, surprisingly. Even though we're only one round through, we are zooming through these last two. These are two 1-hour special episodes that are going to be going down to determine who is going to be the field of 16 for the next round. Of course, this is going to cover, this first section will be for the first two regions of the bracket. Of course, in episode 1, we saw some big wins, especially for El Dominador and Zinger, as well as a few others, and overall some very, very interesting, very fun fights. So it's going to be interesting to see which of these bots can continue their progression to the next round. We'll have a massive matchup between Metal Siege and Buckeye for one of the spots, which is going to be a massive highlight, hopefully. It should be a really fun fight between two of the biggest robots so far in this competition. But let's take a look here at the matches we got. Atomic Green, El Dominador, Zinger, Havoc, Behemoth, Enforcer, and of course, Buckeye Metal Siege. Now, starting off with this first matchup in the top left corner, El Dominador had a very solid first showing, taking down Dietor with very, very impressive performance, but it's definitely going to be having a much tougher matchup right now with Atomic Green. Atomic Green is definitely not going to be the easiest of opponents for them, but we have seen that that wedge and that little spike is pretty effective, so if they can get maybe some good pushes and get around to the side of Atomic Green, they could cause some trouble for the, I guess, essentially reigning champions of Robot Chaos and basically now the one seed of Robot Madness. But Atomic Green should still be the lower robot, so you'd expect them to probably be able to control the pace much better. But this could be a very interesting one between two very fast bots, although most likely the faster one is going to be El Dominador. We're already seeing both robots going right out of the box, going right at each other. Already seeing that ground game playing a big role, but there's a good attack there by El Dominador getting to the sides of Atomic Green. It's going to really have to be an out-driving battle for them because they most likely do not have the wedge, and you can even see the gap from the floor under that wedge. It's not going to be an easy fight for them in that regard. And for Atomic Green, one flip is all you need. El Dominador cannot drive upside down, so if they can get that one flip that is crucial, then they can end this fight. But so far, both the robots kind of stalemating so far. There's no one really able to take initiative just yet. It seems like the designs of these two robots kind of lead to some kind of countering in their designs, but there's a good push there from Atomic Green. Neither robot forcing the issue too much yet. It's mostly just been some small pushes, although to El Dominador's credit, they've been close, but ooh, they have to get away from it. That was a very nice charge there from Atomic Green, and El Dominador definitely feeling a little bit of repercussions from that attack, and now they're very much stuck in the back corner. Of course, El Dominador from 2018, this shell is completely old, over like almost five or 6 years old at this point, but there's a good attack there. Even though it's an old bot, they really still have been able to keep it kicking, keep ticking, and right now they're having a very solid, impressive showing right now. Even though it's kind of hard to know who exactly is on top right now, you have to respect their effort they're giving against Atomic Green, but Atomic Green is still very much, it feels like they've got not too much to worry about so far, because I'm not sure what exactly El Dominador is going to do to them that could end the fight quickly, unless they get a really lucky push. But right now, that does not seem to be likely, with Atomic Green just able to completely dictate the issue, except from when they leave their sides exposed. But some good driving could keep that. Oh, they're near the pit. Can they get El Dominador in there? They're close. Can they get them in? On the edge of the pit, but good control. They've got a good grab. Can they rotate them in the pit? And it looks like they're going to do that. And they are down. Very solid performance there, actually, from El Dominador, but in the end, the one seed just a little bit too much for them, and that's just how it goes. But still, mad respect to them for a very, very impressive showing there. They definitely tried their best against what was very much in a superior bout. We're talking the oldest robot still left in here against what's probably the class of the competition in Atomic Green. To Atomic Green credit, they did definitely have some issues. It was kind of hard for them to force the issue like they've done in the past, but to their credit, they still managed to get the win, although they're definitely going to have some scares, especially because most likely in the next round, they're going to have a tough opponent against either Havoc or Zinger, so it's definitely not going to be easy for them. But in the end, very solid win against a pretty tough, very resilient opponent there. So in the end, this is really all you can ask for. Good, solid victory there for Atomic Green. Now we get over to the Zinger Havoc fight. Of course, Zinger had a very surprising and dominant, somewhat upset of Bot of Italy, even though it's a low seed. A lot of the seeds in this tournament kind of misleading because it's very much based on previous experience, and Zinger was still just a very, very well-rounded bot. And then, of course, for Havoc, they made their presence quite well known with several flips onto Quantum, so this would be a very fun one. The ground game very solidly in the camp of Zinger, and that's going to probably be their biggest benefit in this match. But you have to watch out for that big spinner of Havoc. They have KO capability, and if they can get one good flip or potentially damage that lifter, that's going to really cripple Zinger's chances in this match. But still, you only need one flip, although Havoc, that spinner could possibly help himself right, but it is very untested, so who knows what exactly is going to happen here. This should be a fun one, and we are off. That spinner getting up to speed on Havoc. Very low, very dangerous, although no ground game to speak, so they're definitely going to be flirting with that lifter of Zinger in order to get close engagements, but in the end, it's just kind of what they have to do here to try to pry away this win from Zinger. The Chicken Strip Robotics machine, very resilient, very fast, and they proved that in their last round and with the victories in some previous tournaments, but right now, seems like a bit of driving hampering maybe on Havoc, but it looks like trying to get back in there, but now they're getting some shots under that lifter. This is kind of what they're hoping for. Damaging the algorithm should do some good for them, and they have. That weapon is bent all the way back. I'm not sure if it's going to be able to be salvaged, but that is some noteworthy damage. Oh, but it looks like it's back. And oh, they got flipped! That was very sudden. I don't even know what happened there. It looks like they might have gotten pushed into the screws, potentially. Or maybe they just got flipped by the flipper. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to go look at the replay, but that is a sudden loss for Havoc after it looked like a pretty solid start for them, and they're just pushing the pit. Okay. So Zinger is going to capitalize and get a very solid victory, and it looks like, yep, that lifter is still working, so even though that hit might have potentially damaged the structure, did not break the critical components of that lifter, and in the end, they were not able to, the Havoc was just not able to overcome the brutal charges, and honestly, to Zinger's credit, that was actually a very good lift they got, and that eventually led to it breaking, but let's see, oh, it seems like a little bit of a mix of pressure from Zinger to get it near the screws, and then just a shot, and you can see that recoil. Unfortunately, it bounced off of Zinger, which didn't get it the energy to flip itself back over, and that's a brutal loss for one of the, maybe not favorites, but a fan favorite for the competition in Havoc. Brutal loss for them, but that is a big matchup going to be in the next round between Zinger and Atomic Green. Going to be a very fun one in that. So now getting to our first highlighted fight. We're still doing some highlighted ones because in the end, some of these were boring. We had the third rematch probably at this point between Behemoth and Enforcer. And Enforcer, very slow, very sluggish. That hammer really wasn't firing as fast as it normally did. And in the fashion of all these previous fights that these two have had, Behemoth won. There's really not much else to say. Behemoth, they have kind of been sleeping through this tournament, but in the end, they're still picking up the wins, so really, what can you do? So, good on Behemoth, but now we're actually not going to be doing Metal Siege Bird Brain just yet. We're going to save that fight for a little bit later, and instead go over to the next region, where we saw some major upsets. We saw a big victory for Yugoslav Yeeter over the #1 seed Krusty Grab. We saw Buzzkill making a good return. We also saw Sad Octopus show some really strong power with their victory over Topbot. Blindside took care of business against Original Sin, and there were some other big victories, and Shredderator also beating Reaper, because of course Reaper would lose to Shredderator. But now let's get a look at this next region. We're going to start off with a matchup between the two very surprising ones. We have Buzzkill, who had a very dominant win actually over Complete Control, and of course Yugoslav Yeeter, who had the surprising upset of the #1 seed Krusty Grab, where they completely dictated the whole pace. This is going to be really fun, although that big wedge of Yugoslav Yeeter is definitely not going to make it super smooth sailing for that saw on Buzzkill. Buzzkill's going to really have to outmaneuver and try to get to those wheels, because in fairness, Yugoslav Yeeter is one basically all solid part. Even though they're a 16 seed, do not underestimate them as a 16 seed. They proved why you shouldn't underestimate them in their last match against Krusty Grab. So this is definitely going to be a tough matchup for Buzzkill, most likely based on design, but that weapon is still quite powerful, so really anything can happen here. So let's see how this match goes, and already we're seeing that ground game coming into effect. A huge benefit for Yugoslav Yeeter, just getting right under there and pretty much dictating the match to their will. And it looks like they might actually be stuck in there unstuck. Unstuck's kind of sudden. I don't feel like editing the stuff for that, but here's another good push in here, and almost flipped is Buzzkill. But Buzzkill looks like it might be okay, and looks like they're going to be fine. although this is a very good attack, but you can hear the grinding noises coming from that saw. It's actually quite an effective weapon, even though there's like very few teeth. It's good at catching edges and getting some grips on some of these smaller components of robots. Potentially they can get a grip on that flipper. Could potentially do some damage to that. We saw Zinger get their flipper damaged a little bit in the Havoc fight, so definitely some where could be happening to be components of these robots, but so far Yugoslav Yeater doing quite a good job at controlling, although that was a good attack to the back from Buzzkill. Buzzkill just has to keep going forward. Oh, watch out for that pit. That was very close. You definitely do not want to get too close. Buzzkill survives, and they're going to live to fight another day after that close call, although they do definitely have to keep their head forward because this is not an easy start for them so far. It seems like Yeater doing a pretty good job at closing off all of their opportunities and keeping the pressure on Buzzkill, but Buzzkill still looking for those openings, and to their credit, they're still landing quite a lot of hits and doing some damage, which is going to be good for aggression for sure, although I guess in terms of damage, not really anything's been apparent for either of these bots, so it's probably not going to be too close if it ends up going to a decision, but so far, some good brutality so far from Yeater, just getting in and getting those engagements, but still Buzzkill very much in this match, and that's a good way to get to the backside. Then keep getting to the backside and getting those engagements, then this match is definitely within their grasp, but it looks like, oh no! Yeater over the pit, and they're going to be down, and they're going to be in. Ooh, but so does Buzzkill, but I think that's going to go to Buzzkill. Yeah, that's a Buzzkill victory because even though it was close, there was definitely a significant gap from that pitting time, which is very unfortunate. Very big win for them there, even though they really didn't have the greatest of showings to their credit, because in the end, a very well designed for Yugoslav Yeater to counter it, but just a bit of a lack of control seemed to be a bit of their dooming factor here, and also looks like a little bit of a clip on the back wheel of Buzzkill on that turnaround was kind of what doomed them, and unfortunately for Yeater, that's just how this fight's going to end. But for Buzzkill, congratulations to them. They're moving on to the top 16. Very surprising performance for a bot that's really kind of sucked in the past, but this is a great victory for them, showing that, hey, they still got some gas left in the tank. They're not going to be an easy out here. But looking at Steve versus Sad Octopus, Steve, they're very lucky to be here. I'm going to be frank. They were getting dominated pretty badly by Tornado, but then an unlucky pitting saved them. And that is very different from what we're looking at with Sad Octopus. Sad Octopus pretty much kicked Topbot's butt from the first shot. Even though they took a bit of damage, they yanked off that spinner, and that was all she wrote. This should be a very interesting one. One flip once again. Only need one flip if you are Steve, but it's not going to be the easiest to get that flip, because Sad Octopus, pretty fast, pretty controllable, pretty good ground game, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. And both robots getting in, and the fight is underway. Both robots getting into position. We'll have to see who can get the lower ground, either the spatula or the spinner. And already with them kind of flanking around, and the big shot on that flipper, and it looks bad, it's gone. Sad Octopus, for the second fight, has decapitated the weapon of its opponent. That is a very powerful weapon, and just like that, Steve is very much weaponless and basically now just a box, which is not at all what you want in these kind of fights. This is going to be a very, very tense time, and there goes the mechanism, completely undressing Steve. It's basically now just, a box, just a black box. I mean, we've seen in the past, who is it? We've seen Birdbrain. Birdbrain has beaten the bot in the past. They beat Havoc with no weapon left, so maybe they can get a good push to potentially even this out. The pit is still open, so it's not still not a complete guaranteed winner for Sad Octopus, although Sad Octopus is definitely on top of pretty much all categories, but they're getting close to the pit. Ooh, bit of a close call there. That pushing power is still very strong on Steve on that chassis, so not going to be an easy out, but still they just need one flip, and they're getting a lot of really good engagement on that chassis, and they're getting them near, and they're getting back, and they're flipped, and that is going to be the match. Steve, they fought valiantly, but that's going to be it. Loss of a weapon in basically the first 15 seconds. Doomed most of their chances. No flips, no hope, and that's going to be it. Extremely impressive performance there for Sad Octopus. That was incredibly dominant by them. The first hit just really doing damage. You can see the flipper just get knocked, and then the next big engagement on the flipper just yanked it off, and that's a very powerful weapon there for Sad Octopus. Tons of credit to them for that. And then they took off the rest of the mechanism, which those are not easy to take off either. Those are some very solid parts in there. So insanely impressive victory there. Sad Octopus got very solid showing, and they're going to be a very big threat in the future rounds. Especially, they could definitely be a good counter to Buzzkill's disc. So that should be a very fun matchup in the next round. But now we get on to what could be a very interesting one between the 2-seed Blindside and 10-seed Jab. For Blindside, pretty easy win over Original Sin. Original Sin just kind of died, and then that was pretty much all they wrote for that one. But then for Jab, very one-sided fight at the start for Ramplan, but then once Ramplan lost their wheels, Jab kicked it into overdrive and completely dominated the rest of the match. But this is a case where Blindside is probably the underdog, because this is a massive wedge that Blindside is fighting, and wedges are not Blindside's forte at all. So Jab is realistically, even though they're 10 seed, they probably have the advantage here, but Blindside, if they can get some good shots and potentially do some damage to those back exposed wheels of Jab, maybe they'll be able to keep this match in their grasp, but it's not going to be an easy one for them at all. And the match is underway, and already we're seeing that speed of Jab coming into play. Blindside really going to have to get a lot of time to get that blade up and spinning, but already we're seeing pretty much negated there by that wedge Jab. But that was a good shot to the backside, but now already getting some good pushes in there is Jab, keeping that blade slowed. Have to be interesting to see if their strategy is going to be to keep it slowed or wait for it to spin up and then simply just bop them. There's a fly in the background. It's interesting. But anyway, some big engagements here still, but Jab definitely getting the better of it so far, because they really just have to push them back and just control them and bully them around so far. Blindside really has to think of a good strategy here, and already going down for the pit. Maybe they can try to deflect them in there. But it's already a good start here for Jab. Blindside really does not have an answer for that speed and that wedge. But now they've got the blade up to speed, trying to get some engagement, but Angled has a wedge. Ooh, Jab, look out. Very close to the pit, and they've actually deflected Blindside now up onto the wall. And it looks like that's likely going to be the fight. It seems like they're going to leave them there. And the 2-seed of the region, unfortunately, is going to meet their end here against Jab. Very surprising, very good performance there. Jab is going to take down the 2-seed. Bit of a few moments there where Blindside felt like they could have gotten a good shot to potentially sway things, but the big wedge, they got their vengeance after Blindside, I believe, beat them in Season 5, or maybe they beat them in then 2. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember exactly. But Jab, fair play to them. They did exactly what they needed to do. They had one close call with the pit, but pretty much against Blindside, just have a big wedge, and you'll probably manage. And to be fair, this is probably the wedgiest wedge in the competition, so this was probably the worst matchup Blindside could have possibly gotten. Very unfortunate to see one of the favorites go out this early, but unfortunately, it's just how this goes. They had a really tough region, actually, with 4 wedges. Jeez. Poor Blindside. But anyway, getting to the final matchup of the Southwest region, round of 32, Shredderator. It beat Reaper. It beat Reaper, which maybe 3 years ago would be a major accomplishment, but right now, considering Reaper's recent failures, not too impressive. But getting to Seizure, this is what we're talking about. Seizure sucked for ages, but then went out and had a dominant win with its new design over Electric Boogaloo, which Electric Boogaloo is not the toughest opponent, but still a very solid win for them, spinning them around like crazy and dictating the pace brilliantly. It's definitely not going to be a super easy match for Seizure because Shredderator is basically a big armored shell, although they have weapon power on their side, they have drive on their side. Basically, a lot of the main things that you're going to want here to pick up a win, Seizure likely is going to have the edge in, but we'll have to wait and see how they engage, and Shredderator is also the lightest bot in the competition, so you never know what you can expect with these guys. Shredderator, ooh, already a piece flying off of the top of that shell, but seems fine so far. Seizure getting in some good engagement. The one worry is going to be they're probably going to get popped back on some of these hits here. Shredderator has teeth on pretty much most of it at a few different levels, but it's going to likely be them who's going to have to force an issue to take down Seizure, then it's going to be Seizure having to force something on Shredderator because the weapon power advantage is massive, but already Seizure going for the pit, and it looks like they're going to push it down. Both the robots kind of jostling a little bit for position. Shredderator hanging back a little bit, waiting some time to get that disc up to speed, and getting some good engagements there, but you can see that weapon power definitely lacking compared to Seizure's massive spinner. These bots actually do have the exact same motors but the difference is that Seizure just has a bit more power going to it, and compared to Shredderator, they just don't have the same energy, so it's harder for Shredderator to land the bigger hits, especially with Seizure, who is just spinning faster and not really letting anything go Shredderator's way, which is going to be massive for them if this fight goes to a decision. Because so far, a lot of just smaller engagements, smaller touches, and, ooh, bit of a close call there for Seizure. They have to be careful not to flip themselves. But so far, some good engagement getting Shredderator near that pit, but Shredderator manages to escape. They're definitely going to have to do something to force the issue and just survive. But Seizure so far seems pretty content to only go in and get shots at some times, just kind of waiting because they know, ooh, that was a big shot there. Ooh, another one right there. Seizure, let me say something, please. Stop making good hits. They really just have to keep what they're doing. They don't really have to change their strategy too much so far because Shredderator is definitely on the back foot, so no reason to change exactly what's going on for them. But right now, Seizure doing a very solid job, and near the pit, that was a massive shot actually on Shredderator, but Shredderator manages to escape. And back near the pit, Seizure doing a pretty good job at staying away from the pit and trying to lure Shredderator in, but Shredderator is not taking the bait so far, but still very much a contested match. A bit close to the pit, Seizure, watch out. But Seizure definitely on top at the moment. You have to think Shredderator has to change something, although they are getting a nice flurry of shots, but it still really is going to take quite a effort. They're going to have to get them near the pit, but Shredderator can't get them near the pit if they're in the pit, and that is going to be this match. Very impressive performance there by Seizure. They had a very good strategy of just hanging back a little bit and just getting those nice touches that eventually crippled Shredderator's ability to keep the effort going. Some very nice engagements there. Even credit to Shredderator, they got some good pops in. But Seizure, a bit more controlled, a bit more dilated, a bit more I don't even know if that's a word. Dialed in. That's what I mean. Dialed in with Seizure. Shredderator a little bit more careless, and sometimes it got dangerously close to that pit. And you can't even really know you're driving with Shredderator either. So credit to them for lasting this long, but Seizure, very impressive by them. They are going to be an absolute force in this top 16. It's going to be interesting to see how they fare against Jab, though. That's going to be a very tough match for them. Should be fun, though. So that is the Southwest region pretty much all settled for now. We have the 4 bots from here making the top 16, but now it's time to go back to the first region. One matchup we have still yet to finish, and that, of course, is going to be Metal Siege versus Buckeye. Probably the most hyped up match from this second round. You have Buckeye from Penguin Robotics given for this competition, and this match is going to be a matchup of 2 completely different styles of bots, but 2 very fun bots. Going to be really fun to see how these robots fare, and going to be extremely fun. Metal Siege has the advantage in terms of the wedge and likely the ground game. They've got just a massive front, and really one flip is all they're probably going to need, but Buckeye, they have the sheer weapon power, and that really massive strength could really come to their benefit here. They can just get a few good shots on the armor of Metal Siege before that flip can come into play. Likely could be their match, but this is going to be extremely fun. Metal Siege, of course, Birdbrain wasn't the toughest opponent, but they showed they're very capable. But so did Buckeye against Monstrosity, although Monstrosity definitely had some issues. But this is going to be insanely fun. 2 bots at the top of their class weapons, Flipper and Angled Spinner. One of the strongest flippers versus one of the strongest spinners. Let's see who takes this match and who is going to take the final spot of the first region for the top 16. And the match is underway. Both robots getting in and getting engagement there. And part of Metal Siege has already fallen off. That's not what they're looking for. And oh no, a big shot and the pit's open. And Metal Siege is already eliminated. Well, that was surprising to say the least. Wow, immediate win there. Buckeye took no prisoners, quickly eliminating Metal Siege, one of the favorites for the tournament, in only 2 shots. One shot to take down the side, and then another shot deflecting Metal Siege over to the pit and deflecting them into the pit button and ending the fight. One of the most anticipated fights ends in only 2 shots and complete domination. A massive shot over the edge of the pit and one into the button. And that is an insane victory. Massive, I'm not sure if I call that an upset, but just an insane upset in terms of what we expected. Absolutely insane victory there for Buckeye. They took no prisoners at all, completely destroyed any hopes Metal Siege had in just 2 shots. absolutely insane. Well, Metal Siege is out of the competition. Well, okay. Well, this region is settled. We'll have Atomic Green versus Zinger, and then we will have Behemoth versus Buckeye. These should be some very fun matches. I'm expecting a lot from that Atomic Green Zinger match. Two very fast lifters going to very much come down to who can outdrive the other and who can get more control. And then Behemoth, they haven't done much, but Buckeye is definitely going to be waiting for them after they just took out the Flipper in Metal Siege. So Behemoth is definitely going to have to prepare for that one, especially with their weaker armor. But getting to the other region, we have Buzzkill taking on Set Octopus. That should be really fun. Two very strong spinners with two different styles. Wedge Game will probably be in the advantage of Set Octopus, but one good hit is what we have seen. Wedge Game has not mattered for Buzzkill so far, so you never know what could happen. But then Jab versus Seizure. Seizure has the option to potentially set up a config to hopefully counter that Wedge, but Jab is going to be a massive challenge for them because it's such a wedgy robot, so that should be very fun. But now we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back after these messages, and we'll continue afterwards with more Robot Chaos, Robot Madness, never mind.
Continue Season 1. After this, it sadly might be the end of the main series.
And we are back with more Robot Madness Round of 32 action. Hope you enjoyed those little commercials made by some fans of the channel. It's never really talked much about them last time, but it's a good way to help spread some more messages and cooler other channels that also do similar stuff like this. But getting into the actual region, next we have the Northeast region with Killer Crab taking on Ocean Man, Scorpios taking on Aquatic Disaster, Loki taking on Red Shield, and Business Tombstone taking on Ripper. So getting to this first matchup between Ocean Man and Krusty Krab. Ocean Man, of course, they took care of business, as everyone pretty much expects they would against poor Double Decker Death. A very cool boss, but in the end, unfortunately, there's not much you can really do against Ocean Man in that case. But then for Killer Crab, they got smashed really badly by Silver Star, but Silver Star, they broke again, which, you know, what else is new for them at this point? They managed to pull out a victory there despite some issues that were being had because their claws got basically eviscerated. You'd expect Ocean Man should pick up probably victory here, but if there's one thing Killer Crab is known for, it's playing spoilers, especially back in Robot Chaos Season 3 when they took down one-seeded Ultimo, so never doubt this machine. It's going to be pretty fun to see how they can do against Ocean Man. Probably the toughest fight they've ever had. See if they can use that wedge, get some good engagement there, and potentially disrupt that spinner. But so far, Ocean Man, a lot more calm and collected, I'd say, than a lot of the previous ones. They're very calculated with their attacks. They're very sure on what they do, and there goes I think it's a fork. The crab claw is gone. Of course, those claws, sometimes they don't do much, but it's the soul and the body of Killer Crab. So, you know, probably not ideal if they lose those claws, unfortunately. So, oh, the pit! They're close on the pit side. Oh, but they escape. Oh, look at the dog in the top corner. Look at the little puppy. Look at the little puppies in the top corner. Look at the little dog who he's trying to fight. And there he goes. Ocean Man getting some good more engagements in there, getting some good damage on that claw of Killer Crab. But Killer Crab, to their credit, they're sticking in there. Oh, that was a little nip there. They're definitely going to be on the back foot, and I'm not sure what exactly they're going to do to try to force the issue. It seems like both robots actually maybe having a little bit stuck. Oh, there they go. They're back. Right now, it seems like Ocean Man, they're doing pretty much what they need to do, but still nothing super impressive. That weapon hasn't gotten the massive shots, which in the end it is weaker, and it has been weaker since Season 6. But you'd expect maybe a little bit more engagement, maybe a bit bigger hits. I mean, this is basically a really ideal robot for them to punt around, but they're just not really getting those angles to do that. And Killer Crab is doing everything they really need to right now to stay in this fight and keep up the aggression, and maybe even try to force something on Ocean Man. They might have to start getting a little bit closer with the pit. Oh, they actually almost got a good push there on Ocean Man into the pit, but Ocean Man pushed back. To Killer Crab's credit, they are making this a fight. Ocean Man not been able to really completely enforce their issues, although they did take off the other claw. Killer Crab sticking in there about as well as they really could be for the robot that they are. Very impressive for them in that regard, but in the end, Ocean Man, they're still relatively in control, it seems. I'm not sure what exactly Killer Crab can do here that would sway it in a decision. It basically seems like they need a KO right now. Even just looking at the size difference between these two, Killer Crab is much smaller than Ocean Man is now, especially with those claws gone. It's not a great time to be a Killer Crab fan right now, but then again, when is it really a good time to be a Killer Crab fan? Anyway, we're getting close, and they're getting close to that pit. Just see if anyone can force an issue here. Can Ocean Man possibly get them in, or can Killer Crab get a big opportunity here? Oh, they're close, and they fall in the pit. Darn, they had a small chance there. Ocean Man was close to the pit a few times, but unfortunately just couldn't capitalize, couldn't get the robot going. And Ocean Man, not the most impressive win in all regards. Their weapon wasn't the strongest, but they were undoubtedly in control for almost that entire match. There was no moment where it felt like Killer Crab was close to forcing something that would have swayed or completely eliminated Ocean Man. And to their credit for Killer Crab, they tried their best, but unfortunately, Ocean Man, very well-rounded, very well executed in their strategy, didn't really try to do anything extreme, and in the end, that kind of cautiousness, conservativeness, could definitely be something to watch out as they move on to future fights. But now we're getting to a very fun one. Scorpios taking on Aquatic Disaster. Aquatic Disaster took down Frostburn, which Frostburn has not fought for quite a while, but that's still an insanely impressive victory over one of the robots that a lot of people thought would go very far in this competition. So they're going to definitely be one to watch out for, and they could probably get some good shots on that plow of Scorpios. And Scorpios, both these robots were underseeded and took down the higher seeds. Blip had quite a few issues, and really the fight did not last too long before eventually Blip ended up in the pit. So we still don't know too much about Scorpios and how good it could be, but in the end, they have fought before in some earlier seasons with different versions, so this definitely is a capable machine, and they do have that red sauce, so maybe they could get some nice slices in on that disc, but probably won't get anything too directly with those attacks. We'll see. Oh, and a big box rush there, perfectly executed by Scorpios, getting in and blocking that spinner. But that spinner already getting some big shots, and there we go. Some more nice engagements there on the plow of Scorpios, and already getting some good engagement there. Good start by both of these machines, getting their own respective attacks. Nothing from the saw yet from Scorpios, but it's still very early, and they could definitely try to bring it into play as this match goes on. Scorpio's getting some more engagement, trying to get down that saw, not able to do it. Not sure how effective it's going to be because we didn't really see it in this last match. It was highlighted as well. but Aquatic Disaster still hanging back, now trying to get in some good engagement with that massive spinner. The other Ultimate Bots machine getting some good shots in on that plow of Scorpios and doing damage and taking one of them off. Major blow there, and that's going to really cripple Scorpios' ability to get control, but there's a good attack there. Good controlling slice, and even with that damaged side fork, and I know those forks normally on Salvage are meant to fall off, these ones were glued in, so that goes to show the power that these bots have, and another great shot there from Aquatic Disaster, but now getting attacked a little bit from the backside from Scorpios. Very, very fun fight so far. Both robots moving very fast, but right now another good attack from Scorpio. Seems like losing that side bit might have actually given them a little bit of encouragement to get back in this match, and they definitely have. Although Aquatic Disaster's blade kind of a bit stuttery, but that might also just be a strategy to prevent overheating. And a big shot there. Massive shot, and that's definitely going to help them in these scoring categories. That was a bit of a close call there for Scorpios, but another big shot to the back. And you'd have to think Aquatic Disaster is definitely on top at the moment, but it's definitely not over. Scorpio's very good at controlling, and if they can get some more good pushes in like that, they could have beyond an issue. But they're stuck on their back and being pushed towards the pit. Stuck on their back. Can they get the weapon fire to free themselves? They're trying, and they're in the pit. Great effective pressure there from Aquatic Disaster to get the win, and they're going to be moving on to the next round. Very impressive performance there. They had a few hiccups here and there, especially at the start. They had a very, very aggressive shove there that kind of tossed them back, but in the end, they managed to spin up that weapon very fast, and despite Scorpios being pretty well designed to take on horizontals like this, they did not have much of an answer for that disc, and eventually they got stuck on their back like that, and that ended with a push into the pit by Aquatic Disaster, and they're moving on to the top 16 where they've got a battle with Ocean Man. Should be an extremely fun match of that one. Battle for the oceans, I guess. Very fun one there, so should be exciting to see how that one goes. So now we move on to the next half of the region where we have Red Shield versus Loki. Loki, they fought Armageddon first, which I shouldn't have to talk much about. Armageddon did not win that match, unfortunately, despite everyone's thoughts. It was a stunning victory for Loki. Taking on Red Shield, they had a bit of a contentious match with Omnom, but in the end, they managed to get the victory with some good pushes. I think out of most of the matches in this round, this one might be the most one-sided in terms of design because you have Loki, which unfortunately they would have a fork config for this one, but it unfortunately was not ready and had a lot of issues, so it was better just go with the plain wedge for them. Take on Red Shield, who is basically just a build your own with a wedge, and they really do not have the main. This is basically a massive contrast between one of the more basic designs and, Red Shield getting under Loki. Major shock there in the first moment. Loki actually now realizes, this is going to be quite the fight for them now. But now they're getting in a good grab and already taking off the sides. I imagine Loki probably will have pretty smooth sailing at this point because, it's a build your own wedge. You can't really, unfortunately, not the most revered or optimized design, but they are getting, to their credit, they could get under one more time. They could definitely force an issue or maybe make it close. Loki just getting in some more good pushes here, although getting a bit close towards the pit, and in they go! Red Shield! He's gonna take down Loki! Well, okay! This might be one of the biggest upsets we have seen in a long time. When you're talking about a Whiplash grabber base, and these grabber bases, I mean, you've seen Atomic Green, you've seen Rampage, you've seen Under Destruction from other channels, you've seen Pineapple, a lot of these really good designs for Whiplash bases, and then you're basically taking on what is mostly a pretty basic wedge, but just an amazing attack there, getting in on the side, pushing in, and knocking out Loki. The upset of the tournament, no doubt about that. Unbelievable victory there for Red Shield, and that is a massive win. Congrats to Ultimate. That is an insane victory for your bot right there. Loki defeated in the round of 32 to Red Shield. No one had this on their bracket. To all the people who picked Loki, sorry. But now enough of that. Now we have to go right on to Business Tombstone versus Ripper. Another insanely fun matchup. Business Tombstone completely eviscerated Abomination in their matchup, which show the power of that weapon, taking on Ripper, which Ripper, a very fun flipper, and they did a pretty solid job against Luma's Plow with a few early issues, but and then they're able to capitalize. This should be an incredibly fun match. We'll see if the massive spinner is able to rip off and tear into that shell of Ripper. If Ripper can get that one flip it needs, because Business Tombstone does not appear to be invertible, but two very different styles of robots. Memebot versus Extreme Robots, BattleBots, whatever robot. This should be a very, very fun match, and we're underway. Ripper trying to get in, get a flip quickly. It seems like they want to get under and negate the effectiveness that blade is going to have, and the blade has cut into and ripped off the wedge of Ripper, flopping around there. It's back on where it is, but it is dangling like crazy, but still able to get under there and force the issue and almost flip Business Tombstone. What an insane start here for this match. Business Tombstone landing some big shots and just spiraling and cutting more into that shell of Ripper. It looks like, ooh, another big shot, and they've ripped off one of the side pieces. A bit of Ripper seems a bit shell-shocked right now. That is an insanely damaging start here for Business Tombstone, showing the effectiveness of that weapon and just keeping slicing in more and more into Ripper. But Ripper gaining back some confidence and trying to get back in, because that wedge, it's still technically there. If they could get a flip, that could be major for their chances. A bigger piece of the armor is getting shredded off the side of it, and this is brutal right now for Ripper. Ripper, though, still in the match and trying to get a flip, and they can't, but Business Tombstone gyrates a little bit to keep itself on its wheels and land some more punishing blows. Business Tombstone really pulling out all the stops so far, but it looks like Ripper got stuck in the back screws, and I don't think they're going to be able to get out of there. It's going to likely be a victory here for Business Tombstone unless Ripper can get those screws to reverse, but those ones don't reverse, unfortunately. We can't get back that far. We don't have super long arms. Business Tombstone is going to advance to the next round with a very surprising, very dominant win in all regards over Ripper. It was very fast-paced. The first hit completely destroyed that shovel, completely messed up the bucket, and then from there on, they just kept taking chunks off of that armor, and Ripper really just started getting really, really beat up from this. The sides got worn down, massive shots chipping away at the side. That's a big repair they're gonna have to have. That's not just like some small bits that they're gonna be able to easily just slap back on. Those are big parts of the robot that are now taken off with massive chunks. And in the end, Business Tombstone, absolutely insane dominant victory, and they're gonna have a matchup against Red Shield in the next round. That's going to be an insanely fun one between two robots that, quite surprising to get this far, but one of them is going to be going into the top 8 from there, so that should be really fun. So that is the southwest region. Now we're down to the southeast region. We're just going to start off with Mako versus Snowblind. Snowblind took care of business as probably expected against Ripperoni, the 16 seed, able to get a good flip and end the match pretty quickly. Mako struggled quite a bit in their matchup versus Pizza Time, but eventually got a nice push to get them in the pit, but the effectiveness of that drum not really seen yet, which is quite unfortunate, because they're definitely going to have to do some miracle work here to get rid of Snowblind. Snowblind definitely going to be a major force in this tournament, but if Mako could get some lucky hits, maybe deflect them a bit, maybe get a lucky pitting, you never know what could happen. Both robots now in their squares. See if anyone here can pull off something impressive. And already we're getting underway. We're seeing some good speed here from Mako. They're very fast, and they're hoping to try to get around that plow, and actually doing so far. That was some pretty good engagement there. Seems like Snowblind, normally their driving strategy is just to stay in front of them and just push them around. They really don't have to make things too interesting. Right now it seems like they're doing a pretty solid job of trying to keep them in front of them. Seem to be a bit more cautious than they normally are. I wonder if that's maybe just a different strategy trying to do to keep Mako on their heels or not, but there's a good actually backhand push. You normally don't see that too much from them. Not showing any fear at that weapon of Mako, but there's actually some good engagement there from that weapon on the back side. But so far, Mako definitely losing in the pushing game. But you know, that's essentially part of the job description whenever you go to fight Snowblind. Snowblind still keeping in front of them pretty well, although there are quite a few moments where Mako is actually able to get around and try to get to those treads, a few more right there. The speed advantage of Mako, to its credit, quite well, but there you go, using the screws and getting Mako a little bit off center there, so that was a very solid attack there, and it's definitely going to have to be a little bit more here for Mako for them to manage to pull out some kind of victory here, maybe through a pitting, maybe through getting them stuck a bit, or just pulling out a judge's decision victory. It seems like they're going to have to get a little bit more engagement here on Snowblind to try to force an issue. Snowblind seems to be in pretty decent control so far, although in terms of aggression, you definitely have to give some credit here for Mako for getting a lot of shots in. And, oh, there's a big pop there, actually, on Snowblind from that drum from Mako. That was actually surprising. That weapon, to its credit, if you think about how Judges works, if you get some damage and you can get the aggression, then you could win the decision. You might not have to matter for control-wise. And to Mako's credit, they are being quite aggressive in this one, landing a lot of shots and getting some good engagement with that spinner. If they can get some small bits of damage to maybe offset that damage category a little bit more, they could pull off a miracle Judge's decision here. But for Snowblind, continuing to force an issue, getting some more good pushes on to that drum of Mako and getting them back near the pit tire. The pit is open, so you're really not sure what exactly could happen here, but Snowblind trying to get them in. So far, it seems like they're actually struggling quite a bit here for Mako. Oh, they gotta watch out there, and Snowblind can't capitalize on it, but they're back near the pit, but Mako is going to be able to escape out of it and fight another day. Snowblind continuing to pressure them and trying to distance themselves a bit, because with time dwindling down, only roughly 30 seconds or less left in this match, they gotta be very cautious in getting them near the pit. Ooh, good driving from Mako to get out of that position. They're trying to get this fight to a decision, and we're down to the last 10 seconds. See if anyone can make any last-second push here to potentially sway this decision in their way. A surprisingly close decision. Seems like we're next to... Oh!
Right at the bell. That means I win.
I'm not sure if we actually got to the decision. It seems like Mako might have fallen to the pit at the last second, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see if this is going to go to the decision or not, because Mako, at the very end, fell in the pit. We'll have to see what happens here, but it was a pretty even fight, actually, for Mako especially. Some very good engagement from that drum, and this pop right here onto Snowblind made it seem like, hey, this match is not going to be smooth sailing for them. And it definitely was not. They had a lot of opportunities, but they couldn't execute them perfectly. Some good attacks there from Snowblind, though, and that main controlling aspect was big. But was that over the time is the question. This is going to this could possibly decide the match if Mako edged it out on a decision. Guess we'll have to go and see. Here is the main fight timer, and this is going to dictate how this is going to go. Did Mako survive the bell, or did they fall in just before the 3-minute mark? Oh no, they fell in with 2 minutes and 59 seconds on the clock. Snowblind is going to survive, but if there was just 1 second later, they might have been eliminated by Mako in the round of 32. Massive, massive implications there, but in the end, Snowblind, whether you love him or hate him, they're finding ways to win in the most Snowblind ways possible. Anyways, getting to the next one, we have a highlighted match between Standalone and Ribot. Both robots. You know, Ribot didn't have the cleanest victory. They kind of got lucky in their win over Stingray, but in the end, it was a pretty good wedge game, and to Ribot's credit, actually got under Standalone quite a few times, but in the end, the overall controlling aspect of Standalone with its good lifting capabilities were eventually too much for Ribot, and they managed to get the judge's decision victory over them. So just like that, we are down to only 2 fights remaining. In the next one, we are going to have the number 15 seeded Siren taking on Osprey. For Siren, they managed to take down Rampage, which was a robot that a few people had going to the championship after a very dominant Season 7. They looked very impressive, so it's going to be fun to see how they do here. And then for Osprey, we didn't learn too much about them in the Mammoth match, to be completely honest, because Mammoth is just so big, couldn't really do much damage to them because it's just so heavy. But they got the pit in, and that's what they did. So this is basically going to be a good litmus test for Osprey to see if they can land the damage, get this victory here over Siren. But Siren, they're very effective, and they have a very powerful lifter in terms of the torque. They can flip basically anything. So if they get the good moment in and they can get them on their head, then Osprey is definitely not going to be able to come out on top here, but we'll have to see. This should be a very fun matchup here, and the battle is underway. We'll see who here can take the advantage between these two different designs. Already a good shot there by Osprey. Getting in some nice attacks there onto Siren. Let's see if they can get around, do some damage to that flipper, maybe potentially damage the mechanism. And oh, a big shot on their backside, and that looks like it's loose in the top panel of Siren. You can see on one side it's a little bit hooked up, and another big shot on the back, but Siren struggling near the side. And oh, the top is off of Siren after another big shot there from Osprey. Wow, so that flipper... that flipper is stuck open. Seems like the flipper is no longer working and the top is off of Siren. Well then, major damage so far from Osprey. Siren really struggling so far. Seems like the drive is just really off and they're not able to do a whole lot here to Osprey anymore, especially with that flipper seemingly possibly out of commission. It seems like Osprey is probably going to be able to pick up a win here, but they definitely have to be careful because there's still some really good drive into Siren, and Siren's getting a very good attack here on the pit button, but they're likely going to have to do something here, possibly get them stuck, get Osprey in the pit in order to get this win, but right now they're definitely struggling. There's another big shot there on that flipper arm. You're going to have to see if they can do anything with it because they're definitely not in a good position right now to get up and over Osprey. Overall, some very good control here from Osprey, taking the fight to Siren and making sure that they're keeping it in their side of contention because with that major damage, they're definitely set up to get some good points on a judge's decision, but Siren is definitely still in this match, so it's going to be definitely not dead yet, but they have to be careful. They're forked. They're almost in the pit. They have to get out of there, and they do, and they go back and get a major shot on Siren that's flipped them over, and I think that might be the match, and it's going to likely be it. What went from a very scary moment there for Osprey, they turn it around and land a massive uppercut. And that's going to end the day here for Siren. Wow, it was looking very scary there for a second looking very scary for Osprey for a second there. But in the end at the start, they landed the massive shots, took off part of that front wedge. And actually, honestly, they could have almost left them there, but then the wheels just barely got Osprey down. And then that top panel was gone. And you know, without that, it was really, really rough times for Siren. There was only one moment where it seemed like they could have picked up the win, but it was not by anything they did. It was just by Osprey having some driving issues. And then they just turn around and land a massive uppercut on that flipper to flip them over, and down goes Siren. Very solid performance there for Osprey. They're definitely going to be a fun one in the next round. So just like that, we're down to our last match of the day. Good victory there for Osprey, but now we're down to the final for the Region of Death is what I have called it, between Cyclone and Warbird. Cyclone, very fun victory over Dark Matter in their matchup. And then for Warbird X, probably the best matchup of the first round when they managed to take down Hive Smasher by taking off a wheel and doing some gymnastics to avoid the pit. I would argue this is probably one of the most hyped up matches for this round between its two massive spinners, both build your own bars, possibly for the battle of King of the Build Your Own Spinners, but you still have Aquatic Disaster. So maybe the winner of this one can organize a matchup with them for the true record. But then there's also Lightning, who's not in this tournament. There's a lot of them. I don't know. But let's get through to this final match between these two massive spinners, and both getting out of their squares. Can one of them get the better engagement? Big shot already. Massive engagement there. Cyclone launching Warbird back into the wall, but Warbird has a bit of better range, so they could potentially do some good damage with that a bit longer bar compared to Cyclone's shorter blade and disc. Already some good engagement there. We're seeing that blade on Warbird. They like to slow it down after a few hits to prevent overheating and keep that blade going throughout the entire match. Part of the strategy, not part of damage. Cyclone, though, taking advantage of the no blade, and ooh, a good push there on the Warbird to get them stuck on the wall, but they managed to get down. Pretty even matchup, but uh-oh. Is that disc of Cyclone potentially down? It looks like it is down for the count, which we've seen so much happen with this robot, unfortunately. And that means that Warbird's disc is the only weapon, not like disc, Warbird's bar is the only weapon left in this field. And ooh, a massive shot there, launching Cyclone back into the wall. And that is definitely going to be a major downfall for them, but uh-oh, looks like they are stuck there on the side, although it looks like Cyclone's gonna go free them. Be a good sport, you know. Cyclone, they wouldn't have done anything to win if that happened anyway. But Cyclone trying to keep going and force an effort, but some big shots being dished out by Warbird, so it's definitely not a great position for them right now. but still, anyone's match at this point. Cyclone, they've won without their spinner a few times in the past, just being brute force and just able to control the pace, but this is a bit tough for them right now because Warbird, with that weapon, really able to get the rest of the damage and aggression points on the scorecard. So it's going to be tough for Cyclone to come back from this unless they can get some more engagement and possibly take away some of that damage points that would be going to Warbird in this one. Although it definitely could end with it hitting, as we've seen quite often happen so far. Good attack here from Cyclone, pushing Warbird back a little bit near the back screw. Let's see if any of them can utilize it, but to have no point so far for either of them. So far, pretty much the same story as it was earlier. It's just Warbird able to get some good attacks in. There's another nice attack to the back there. Cyclone trying to stay in this match as best they can. Ooh, near the pit there. Just avoiding near disaster there is Warbird. We've seen that happen a few times with them. Looks like now Cyclone is getting a bit more desperate, and they're going to have to start using the pit to try to end this match. A good shove there and a good tussle from both of them. Cyclone, with time dwindling, has to make some kind of move here to try to sway the decision in their favor. Can Warbird survive? Oh, near the pit! Very near the pit. Cyclone right on the edge, pushing back, trying to get pushed in there, get flecked in the pit. Darn, what a close, tedious end to that match there. Mad respect to both of those robots. They stuck in there hard and kept fighting till the very end. Great attacks from Warbird to keep the fight going and eventually break that disc of Cyclone. You see right there, that hit disabled the disc, and then Warbird was free to pretty much land shots as they pleased. Land some good ones, especially that one deflecting them in, but then so many antics near the pit at the end. So many good engagements, almost getting a good push in there was Cyclone, but Warbird broke free, and a shot on the disc of Cyclone actually deflected it in, and that's going to be it. Very impressive win there for Warbird, no doubt about that. So just like that, we only have 16 robots remaining, rounding out the Southeast region. Looks like it's time to go over the whole regions all combined into one final Sweet 16 bracket. Atomic Green taking on Zinger. That should be a really fun one between those two lifters. Behemoth, Buckeye. Buckeye probably has the advantage there, but Behemoth definitely could get some good flips in with that scoop. Buzzkill, Sad Octopus, going to be a great matchup between two pretty strong spinners. Seizure taking on Jab. We'll see if Jab can take another horizontal down and continue its advance, possibly to the final four. Oceanman, Aquatic Disaster. Battle of the Water Ones. That one works out quite well. Business, Tombstone verse, probably the shocker of the tournament so far in Red Shield, taking down Loki, probably one of the favorites to win this whole thing, and they managed to take him down pretty quickly. So mad respect to them. Snowblind versus Standalone is going to be an absolutely insane match. That should be a really fun one between probably one of the best wedge bots we have there with a really effective weapon. And then, of course, Snowblind is Snowblind. And then you have Osprey against Warbird X. That should be a really fun one between two big spinners. We'll see some of Osprey's other configs for the first time. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. We have one episode to go. Next week, we wrap up the rest of the tournament.